The last place you'd expect to find a seal would be in your wheat crops. This became a reality for a South Australian farmer. This isn't the first instance of critters from around the world being found in places they aren't supposed to be. Join us while we take a look at some other creatures who have appeared in random places, and as we take a look at just how that little baby seal got there. First, let's take a look at what it would take for a baby seal to appear in wheat crops. As we all know, baby seals can mainly be found in the ocean. To see them out in public is a bit of a rarity. With that being said, it's definitely not impossible. The creatures are semi-aquatic, which means that they're able to exist outside of water as long as they can maintain a steady water diet. While they are able to swim 21 miles per hour, seals are not as fast when on land. The hard fins of seals make it incredibly difficult for them to walk on land. They use their flippers to move around, so it undoubtedly must be difficult for a seal to traverse all the way from the sea to the land. Seals move at an estimated 2 miles per hour. With the nearest sea colony being 80 miles from the farm he'd found himself at, it would have taken the seal about 1 day to get to the farm. That's also not including the stops he may have made along the way for small bits of water and snacks. That's saying he hadn't eaten at all, since it was reported that when the seal was found, it was skinnier than seals usually appear. Before we get right into the seal, let's discuss some other animals who have found themselves in similar situations. Seals aren't the only animals who can find themselves in places they're not usually found. In fact, it isn't as odd as one would believe. Like the story of a horse who found himself in a situation you'd only believe if you had seen it with your own eyes. In New Brunswick, Canada, there was a horse left alone. A horse who was bored and somewhat curious. This horse walked around outside of his stable, probably looking for something to do. With his stablemates down at the local track doing training, there was nothing for the horse to do, nothing there to entertain him. So he decided he'd entertain himself. This is hardly cause for news. Horses get bored, as does every person and animal. What makes this story is how the horse decided to entertain himself. The owners of the home came back to see their horse standing on the roof. Homeowners did the best thing to do and took a picture of the horse hanging out on the roof. The horse could have probably easily gotten himself down, but unfortunately his hoof smashed a hole in the roof. Thankfully, the owners got him down, and aside from the homeowner's bank account, nobody was hurt. Let's now talk about the seal who found his way to a farmer's wheat crop. It all started when a farmer, Ty Kayden, received a phone call from his neighbor. The neighbor called him up, and at first Kayden said he'd heard that there was a baby cow in his driveway. That was of course not the case, as when he had arrived at the farm, what he saw was a baby seal in a place he had no idea was possible. The seal he had arrived to see was no more than 3 feet. As discussed before, the seal was a lot skinnier than most seals. Ty and his neighbor noticed this fact instantly upon looking at it. Kayden later says that he hopes it had eaten a good share of king whiting, and also that he hopes that it's looking fatter and more well-fed. The seal has since swam on with no plans to return, so we can't say for sure if the seal's been eating more, but we could hope for the best for the adventurous little critter. Seals do not have a great sense of direction, so the seal probably won't be able to locate its way back to Kayden's neighbor's farm. That's not to say that it won't mistakenly stumble upon the farm again to say hello. Let's look at what Ty Kayden and his neighbor did to help the seal. It's not every day you find yourself with a lost seal looking for some direction. So if a normal person was in this situation, we probably wouldn't have known what to do with it. Ty Kayden thankfully knew what to do and was quick, putting a towel over the seal and then putting it safely in a plastic box. They took it down to the beach. The tide was high and the little critter shuffled down into the water. While it's a rarity for a lawyer to see a seal in their office, people who work jobs like farming in Australia are well experienced with seeing seals, especially at the certain time of the year. Kayden's neighbor found his seal. The Australian Marine Wildlife Research Rescue Organization receives somewhere between 3,000 and 6,000 calls a year for the long-nosed fur seals. Farmers who may be coming face to face with these seals should usually not make contact. While what people like Ty Kayden do is kind, these animals carry a range of diseases, and what's best to do when coming in contact with these seals is to call in and report the seal to people who have the correct resources to help the little animals. While we're on the topic of seals, let's discuss some fun facts regarding the mammal. One thing most people may know about seals is their lifespan. Gray seals are capable of living for up to 35 years. It's more likely for the females to achieve that age, since their expected lifespan is 30 years. Male seals, on the other hand, are only expected to make it 25 years. For a male, 30 and 35-year lifespans are super rare. The fact is that simply more male seals make it to around 25 than do make it to 30 or 35. Another fun fact about seals is the reasoning they have for going above and underwater. The reason seals tend to go above water is mainly to escape predators. They also come above water to give birth, feed, and mate. Hopefully not all at the same time. Everything else is done underwater, including sleeping. A sweet fun fact about seals is that the mother seals and their child are able to recognize each other. This can come even after a separation of almost half a decade. This was confirmed by a study in Alaska that discovered they use familiar calls to recognize where the seal is their mother. Or if the tables are turned, they use it to see if the seal is their child. Let's talk about some other hilarious seal stories. Randomly being found sitting in farmers' wheat crops is not the only thing that seals are known to do. The funny little creatures always seem to be getting into some kind of random, questionable predicament. Take, for example, the Alaskan fur seals who decided they needed to make themselves home on top of a volcano. Not just any volcano either, one that was actively bubbling. The discovery of fur seals on this island came very much as a shock, considering the fact that the mammals were at the time considered to be a thing of the past. You can imagine the shock experienced when these seemingly rare seals were showing up in bunches, on top of an active volcano, no less. Not only had they not gone extinct, there were a great deal of seals, doubling if not tripling the previously presumed population for Alaskan fur seals. Finding seals in random places isn't only exclusive to farmers and people who are actively around volcanoes. In San Diego, a seal had decided to explore the town by way of freeway. This tells us that everyday people have the chance to see a seal wandering around aimlessly on the freeway in their lifetime. Finally, let's give a quick recap of everything we've learned. In this video, we have learned quite a lot about seals and what to do if we ever do encounter them within the wild. Let's do a quick recap. First off, if you are a farmer that is somewhat near an ocean, it's not completely impossible that during a certain time of the year, you can run into a seal hanging around in your crops. As a matter of fact, the closer you are to the ocean, the more you should accept the possibility of finding a seal. If you ever do find a seal, you are not going to want to touch it, unless it is stuck and requires you to do so. Instead, call one of the many numbers for the organizations that specify in helping with situations like that. Try to do it as quickly as you can, because while the seals can survive outside of water, they still require a healthy water diet, and to eat these certain types of food they eat to survive. The same goes for finding a seal along the highway. Now, if you find a seal near a volcano, we're not sure how you're really going to help there. We're just thankful the curious little seal got back to the ocean safely. We wonder what they're up to now. Hopefully they're getting a good diet and living their best life. If you've ever found an animal where they don't belong or know somebody who has, let us know below.